Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is daf Nun Vav, and we start from the Mishnah daf Nun Hey, Amid Aleph on the bottom. It's a new sugya. We said it last night, very, very quickly, but it requires some thought over here. So we'll go through it again. Okay, so we have to know a little bit the mechanics of how they used to make wine in the olden days. They used to have a wine press, and problem with a wine press, especially from a non-Jew, is it's yayin nesach, right? Especially ovid kechavim. Says the Mishnah, no problem. Loikchen gas beutem and ovid kechavim. You could still buy a wine press, a gas, which is a wine press which they squeezed grapes in, right? They pressed the grapes already in there, from a guy. Afal pishu noitel biyada. Even though the non-Jew took the grapes from the gas, like the sediments, whatever he had after it was pressed, so he touched that liquid, that wine, still it doesn't become yain nesach yet, and he put it onto the mound where he let it drip, whatever still was there, whatever liquid was still there, and it does not become, he doesn't make it into yain nesach at that stage, until sheyerid labar, until that liquid, that juice, goes into a bar. Yored labar mashkvar omasha bar also bashar mutter. Whatever's in the bar is usher, and the rest is mutter. So I brought a little wine right over here. We're going to do a Stefanski style, Rebelli Stefanski style. Some grapes, right? This is the gas. This is where they go in, and they press the grapes. And what happens is there's a tziner that goes from the gas to the bar. This is mamash real wine over here that I have. Okay, so it's connected. So whatever you press, whatever liquid comes out of the grapes, goes into the tziner and falls into the bar. Could you see? I don't know if the oilam can see over there, but there's grapes in here, there's wine in here, and there's a tziner that connects the two. So says the Mishnah Moed de Gezach, when a guy steps on grapes, he presses the grapes, no problem. Even though there's juice that comes out of the grapes in the gas, it doesn't become yain nesach yet. Even if it goes into the tziner, still not yain nesach. Ad sheyerid labar, until it comes into the pit, and that's where it gets its status of yayin, as far as the dinim of yain nesach are concerned. So masha babar osir v'ashar, meaning ashar means whatever's in the tziner, whatever's in the gas, that's still mutter. Says the Mishnah Vayter, dorchen oivet kechavim begas, avaloi boitzer nimoy. Once the non-Jew already was metame first you have to now preface a new halacha, not yain nesach. This has nothing to do with yain nesach. Now we have halacha. You're not allowed to be metame chulin in Eretz Yisrael. You can't take chulin and be metame in Eretz Yisrael, right? Because a lot of people eat chulin b'tahara, right? We know there's halacha that shroom has to be eaten b'tahara, right? But some people are machmer; they eat even chulin b'tahara. So if you're going to go be metame chulin, you might be machshel. According to some Rishonim, that's the reason. You might be machshel other people who are makpid to eat chulin b'tahara. So there's an isser d'Rabbanan to be metame chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Now, it says the Mishnah that you're allowed to go into the gas with a guy, with a non-Jew, and press the grapes. Why? When the non-Jew does it, he is metame. He's metame the grapes. It's not a problem because once the non-Jew started, it already became tumah. It already became tummy. It's no problem at all. It already became tummy. Right? And what about being mistaker bi isura hana? There could be another problem, but I didn't mention. What about being mistaker bi isura hana? Right? If the yid is hired by the non-Jew to press the grapes, Rabshol, I heard you made a simcha today. Mamish aval simcha.
Grapes and lips.
Wine and grapes. There's a ganze contraption over here. There we go. I'm a visual learner. If you haven't figured that out yet. I do videos and films. So anyway, if a Jew is hired by a non-Jew to press the grapes, what's he gonna? He gets paid a salary, right? But the halach is yain nesach is asher ba'ano. If he gets paid for yain nesach, he's not allowed to take that salary, right? So the answer is, at this stage, it's not yain nesach still, right? It's not yain nesach yet. It's only yain nesach here. So you can be doirich with a guy here, get paid for it, because it's not yain nesach, it's not asher ba'ano yet. Plus, there's no problem being matama chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because the guy was already matamet. Right? Once the guy starts, he's already matamet, so it's not a problem. So that's the. Yeah, two different halachas. Two completely different halachas. So Rashi points out over here that there's no issue with either one of those halachas. There's no issue with tumah because the goy already was matamet. So once the goy is matamet, I can join. I'm not doing an avera. I'm not the one being matamet. It was already tameh. The other issue of being mistaker b'yisura anah because it's yain nesach and I'm allowed to get paid a salary working for a guy with yain nesach. At this stage of the game, we just established it's not yain nesach yet. It's only yain nesach once it went into the vat. It goes into the vat. This is the gat, and this is the bo. Labo. Yeah. Okay, says the Mishnah. Second halach of the Mishnah. Oh, what? Chavia. He just came in time as we turned the page. You're allowed to press the wine, the grapes in the gas. You're not allowed to harvest the grapes. You're not allowed to harvest the grapes with a guy. Can't go to his vineyard and start cutting the grapes. Why not? Because it's not tummy yet. It's not tummy. Why isn't it tummy yet?
Because it's still connected.
Even when you cut it, it's still not tummy. In order for food to become tummy, what do you need?
It has to be wet.
It has to be wet. How does it have to be wet? With what kind of mashkin? Seven mashkin. Yat shachadam. Now, when you harvest grapes, right, the grapes aren't wet yet. It only becomes wet once it comes into the press, right, into the wine press. So, Mamela, loy bites or nimai. Why? Because at that stage, it's not tummy yet, and you're assisting into bringing it into the wine press for it to become tummy. That's why you're not allowed to do that.
So it's like piling something up to make tumah, right? In other words,
yeah, you're preparing it to become tummy. That's not the problem. Yisrael sho'isa b'tumah.
Right.
Now a yid, that is a guy, a yid who's not makpid on being matame, chulin in Eretz Yisrael. We just said there's an isser. You're not allowed to be matame chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Isser d'Rabbanan. Why? We spoke out because some people are makpati chulin b'tahara.
Yes.
And so you can't go around to be matame. Now Yisrael shu oisa b'tumah, a yid who's not makpid, he's over in isser d'Rabbanan. He's not makpid on being matame chulin in Eretz Yisrael. He does it b'tumah. Says the Mishnah, Lo dorchen v'lo b'tzunima. You're not allowed to be Messiah yedei over avera. You cannot. Nunheya medbeis top. Yeah, top line. Yisrael sho'isa b'tumah lo dorchen v'lo b'tzunima. You're not allowed to press the grapes with him. You're not allowed to harvest the grapes. Why not? Because you are assisting him in the being matame chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Avol mo'lichin imay chavias lagas. You could do deliveries. Yeah? You could bring the barrels of grapes from the field into the gas, and you can also bring it from the gas to the where? To wherever you need to bring it to. Not a problem. Right? It's only an issue if you be Messiah over Aveira, b'shas the Aveira. But the intro and the outro, right? The back end and the front end of whatever goes into the actual Ma'aser, that's not an issue. Okay, says the mission. Weiter Nachtoim, or 4 lines from the top of Nun Hey Amud Beis. Nachtoim a baker, Shu Oise Betuma. Yeah, Shalom said to me yesterday he loved the Gemara. Why the daf? Because we had a little bit of a agarata. We had some interesting stories about the philosophers challenging Chachmei Yisrael. So here we're going back straight into it. We're going back into halacha, the halacha of yayin nesach.
Yeah.
So we're going to nachtem sho'isa betuma. Now again, you're not allowed to take chulin in Eretz Yisrael if you're matamit. You cannot go around and walk around. If you're tummy, don't touch anything. You can't be matamit chulin in Eretz Yisrael.
I just learned this just now.
Okay, good. So now it's continuation.
No, I knew that there were people who were called chaverim,
right?
Which were
makpid on chulin b'tahara, right?
To be zeicha to a title like that,
you have to be makpid on chulin b'tahara. One of the things.
I didn't realize that the isser was basically
based. According to some that was the isser. It was based on everybody not to be matame chulin in Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah, okay.
So nachtoim shu oiseh b'tumah. What about a baker? Yeah. That he is not makpid on tumah, right? He needs the dough. And doesn't wash his hands or whatever. He makes sure he doesn't, he's not makpid. Right. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, you're not allowed to help him dough or prepare the dough because you're being Messiah yedei over avera. You're helping out people who are willingly doing an Aveira, right? They're willingly going and being matamed dough. So you can't be part of that bakery. You can't work in that bakery. Aval melichan imoy pas lepalter. But if you want to do a delivery on that pas, right? Once the dough is ready and you want to bring it to a baker to put it into the oven, then you're allowed to once the dough is done. The dough was prepared by somebody who was matama the dough. Yeah, but you didn't partake in that action. In that act itself, you weren't the partner. So as long as you didn't partake in the act of the Aveira itself, where you're being matama the dough with the other guy, or you're helping the other guy who's matama the dough, it's not a problem. You could deliver.
מה יותר גרוע? ייד שטמא או שגוי נוגע בעיסה? הגוי נוגע בעיסה או ייד טמא שנוגע בעיסה? מה יותר גרוע?
I always thought that the halachas of tumah is worse by a yid.
Yes, I think so.
Yid is much more chomer, right? That's l'chayr.
But isn't it that just stamagoy
Yeah.
is considered to be tummy on some level anyway, just by being a goy?
Yes.
חמור,
Yeah.
מה? חמור,
Yeah.
מה טמא
Yeah,
בחמור?
yeah,
חמור.
Yes.
Yeah.
מה
Right.
טמא בחמור? חמור לא
Yeah.
מטמא, מה טמא בחמור? לא, הוא לא שרץ, הם חמורים, זה לא...
Okay, says the Gemara, Omer Avuna, we've a lot to cover. Omer Avuna, Avuna said, the Heiliger Avuna, Avuna was an Amayra or a Tana? Avuna
אמורה.
was an Amayra. Okay, so the Mishnah is Tanoim. I'm making this point for a reason. In one moment. Omer Avuna, Avuna comes along, he's an Amayra, and he says, Yayin, Kiven Shehischeli Moshech, as soon as, this is very interesting, okay, we're going to pour some of, we're going to pour some.
העירוי, זה עירוי, העירוי. יש עכשיו, כשאתה עושה ככה, יש עירוי.
Why?
Right, the pork.
Oh, I
right.
can't see it. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't see it on the camera. So you say I can't
You know,
say it on
when you
camera.
do it, there is עירוי.
No, it's good. You can see it. You can see it right now. Yeah. So here we go.
נקרא עירוי.
Ravuna says, remember, right? This is the bar. This is called the bar.
Right.
This is called the gas. This is where you press the grapes and it
Right.
becomes liquid. And this is the tzinar, right? And I think what happens is, this is a little bit on a slant, right? So this way, the liquid drips down through the tzinar into the bar.
Right.
Okay, we'll talk soon. The tzinar also had a sifter. Okay, so it kind of held back whatever sediments, pulp, skin of the grape, so it didn't fall into the bar. Okay,
This is great. I'm
they,
learning so much tonight.
they,
This
they,
is
fig- they
terrific.
figured it all out.
Yeah.
You're going to start making...
Now Rav Huna
No.
says, comes the Heilige Amoyer Rav Huna. Rav Huna says an amazing memory. He says like this. The Mishnah just said that it only gets the status of wine once it reaches the bar. That's when Dina Yain Nesach kick in.
Okay.
Right? But what if there's wine? What about the liquid and the juice in the press itself, right here, when it's still at this stage? Says, no, that doesn't. The Mishnah says it doesn't have a din of wine yet. It doesn't become Yain Nesach when a guy touches it in this stage. Or even in the tzinar. Only once it reaches the bar.
Wait, so in other words,
Says
those
Rav Huna,
people-
one second.
Yeah.
Says Rav Huna. Comes Rav Huna says, Yayin kiven shehischil lahemoshech oisa yayin nesech. So he's machmer. He says it doesn't have to reach the bar in order for it to become yayin nesech. As soon as the liquid, there's enough liquid here that it starts going down on a slant into the tzinar, then that already becomes subject to the halachas of yayin nesech. That's Rav Huna's chiddush.
That was my question.
No, once
you go
once there's liquid piling up
So
in
even by
here,
the grapes, not just by the
even
slant.
by the grapes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So very good. In other words, the whole thing.
And the other opinion holds not even by the slant.
Oh, so the Mishnah just said only mashaba bar aser v'hashar mutter. The Gemara's going to ask in the Mishnah in a moment. But Rav Huna seems to be Rav Huna's an Amoira, right? We just established. Can't argue on a Mishnah. Rav Huna says Rav Huna, Yayin kiven shehischil lehimashech. Wine, as soon as it starts
To collect.
as soon as it starts being pulled into the tzinar, because there's enough liquid that it's slanty, it's going on a slant, the halacha is oise yayin nesech. You can make it into yayin nesech. It's subject to the halachas of yayin nesech.
כל הזמן שנמצא בתוך הגת, אפילו שדרכתי אותו,
Ken,
זה עדיין לא נסך.
what do you mean? According to Rav Huna, you're saying?
אוקיי, בוא נגיד לך, בוא נסביר לך.
Lefi Rav Huna or no?
listen.
Yeah. Just making sure. Give me a sec.
אני דורך, נכון?
Yeah.
אני דורך. נהיה פוט, נכון? יש שם סיפטר
Yeah.
באיפה שהצינור, נכון?
Yeah.
עכשיו הסיפטר הזה, עכשיו מהפורט נסתם. אוקיי? יש יין בתוך הגת. יש מיץ בתוך הגת. אז מה, כל עוד... אז מה, אני שואל שאלה, מה, כל מה שבתוך הגת, עדיין בגת, אפילו שזה...
כן, זה החידוש של רב הונא.
אז זה לא... זה לא היה נכס, נסך, אפילו שזה יהיה, איפה שזה...
לא, הרבון מחדש שכל מה, כיוון שהסחיל עם מושך, כל מה שבגס אסור.
לא הבנתי את השאלה שלי.
אוקיי.
השאלה שלי אומרת, רבונה אומר שזה גם כן יהיה נסך, או שרק מתחיל להיכנס עניין נסך?
מה זה מתחיל להיכנס?
אני עכשיו דורך את זה בגת,
כן.
דרכתי בגת.
אתה ישראל?
אני ישראל, גוי, לא משנה מה, דורך.
אם גוי דורך, זה יש לו...
ישראל טמא, לא משנה, רק שואל שאלה. גוי, דורך.
כן.
גוי דורך.
כן.
ויש, הוא דורך ויש פוט. והפוט סותם את הספטר.
Yeah.
והוא דורך.
Yes.
יש הרבה יין, נהיה מים, נהיה מיץ ענבים.
Yeah.
נהיה מי, נהיה...
Okay. And here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Speak English because I have people who want to hear your question.
My question is, for me it's a chidush that it's inside the gut. זה דרוך, וזה כבר...
English. Yeah. It's already pressed. Yeah.
It's already pressed. It's already a juice.
Yes. So it all becomes yain nesach.
So it's, as long as it didn't go to the bore, it's still not considered a nesach. It's a chidush.
That's the Mishnah. Rav Huna comes as machadish. No, even in the gas, it's kiva sheschil yimoshech. Once it gets slanty, the whole thing becomes already subject to yain nesach. Okay, that's the
so you're telling me basically you go up to Oxnard, right?
Oh gosh.
But
okay,
to
yeah.
Herzog, right? One second. And they've got goyim picking the grapes.
Yeah.
So when they pick the grapes and they put it in these,
I gotta stay local here.
And they put them in these huge containers. They have to worry about moisture in the bottom of the container.
I can't answer that question. I don't know. I can't talk halacha l'maaseh. I'm just talking what Rav Huna says in the Gemara. I'm just keeping it local.
You know, I have a good idea. Let's do the question in the last 10 minutes.
That's a good idea. Amar Rav Huna, yain kiva sheschil l'mashach oisi
We have
yain
to remember
nesach.
them. That's the question.
Says the Gemara, how could Rav Huna say that the yain in here becomes yain nesach? It's not like the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, Tanan, loikchim gas beuto min ha'ovet kechovim, af al pi sheno tal biyodoi v'nosan tapuach. The Mishnah says, come, the Mishnah says not like that. Pesach, the Olam wants to see you. Come over here. The Olam in Eretz Yisrael, and the millions of people who are viewing this daf. Let's go. You think Rabbi Stefanski is a big Olam? This is...
Get on your videos,
Vada. Anyway, so the kasha is, I don't know if they can see, a bar and a gas. The Mishnah says that you could buy from a goy the gas beuta, which means the grapes that have already been pressed in the gas, and you don't have to be chayshish for yayin nesach. But according to Rav Huna, how could you do that?
Yeah.
Rav Huna just said that kiva shehischali yimashech, as soon as you have some liquid that's begun making its journey down the pipe into the bar, the whole thing becomes yayin nesach. So how could you buy from a goy a gat beuta? That's the Gemara's kasha. Kasha from a Mishnah. Rav Huna's an Amoyer, the Mishnah's a Tana. You can't argue. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna, nech begas pekuka umeleya. That's very interesting. Rav Huna says, in the Mishnah, it's pakuk, which means that it's so full.
It's stuck.
It's stuck.
It's clogged.
It's clogged. It's so full. It's so full that it didn't start its journey down the tziner because it's so full. It's so full. Okay. Now another kasha. Toshama ve'ino oisi yain nesach at sheyered labar. The Mishnah at the end says again, reiterates, it does not become yain nesach until the wine goes into the bar. So how could Rav Huna say it becomes yain nesach here? It has to first slide down into the bar. Where it says over here also says Rav Huna over here ochanami begas pekuka meleya. Yeah, it's also in a case where it's so pakuk it never made its way down the tziner because it's clogged.
Right.
Okay. Toshama, another kasha on the Mishnah. The very end of the Mishnah we learned is yorad labar, masha babar osir, vashar mutter. Yeah, once it gets to the bar, Mishnah again reiterates a third time. Only whatever yain is in the bar is subject to the halachas of yain nesach. Whatever is still in the gas, or the tziner, for that matter, is not subject to yain nesach. How could Rav Huna say otherwise? You can't argue the Mishnah. Rav Huna loy kasha kan b'mishnah. Now here you can't say pekuka maleya. You know why? Because we're talking already the wine that's in the bar. So that means it is dripping into the bar. And yet the Mishnah says, Masha bagat mutar. Rav Huna says, not like that. How could it be? Says the Gemara, Rav Huna loy kasha. Rav Huna keeps answering these questions himself. He says, loy kasha kan b'mishnah rishoyna kan b'mishnah achroyna. The truth is, Mishnah rishoyna means the first version, the earlier version of the Mishnayos held that only what's in the bar is subject to yain nesach. Whatever is still here, or even at the tziner, is not subject to yain nesach. I hold like the later version of Tanoim. Tanoim later came along in a brisa and changed their mind, and they said otherwise. What do they say? What's the Mishnah Achroina? The Tanya we learned. B'Rishoina, in the beginning, Hayu Oimrim Badad. Badad stands for 3 halachas. The base stands Ein Boitzer Nam Oivet Kechavim Begas. You're not allowed to harvest. You're not allowed to harvest with a goy begas and bring it to the gas. You know why? Because you're partaking in the tumah of chulin in Eretz Yisrael by helping the non-Jew harvest grapes and bring it into a wine press. What's eventually going to happen is it's going to become tumah, and you don't want to help a non-Jew with being matama chulin in Eretz Yisrael. That you're not allowed to do. So that's number one. And you can't be doirich, you can't press grapes with a Jew who is not makbid on keeping it b'tahara, because it's asur to help over avera. But if you want to press with a non-Jew grapes, it already became tameh. It's already tameh from the non-Jew. He already started pressing it. So already you're not being a tameh. And the non-Jew is not doing an avera because he's not mitzvah. He's not commanded to keep it b'tahara. So there's no issue with a Jew pressing the grapes with to partner with a non-Jew to press grapes. No issue with that. And then they changed their minds and they said no. The bad you're not allowed to press the grapes in a gas with a non-Jew because of Ravuna. What does Ravuna say? Ravuna says it becomes yain nesach even here. And if it becomes yain nesach even here, what would be the issue? Issue would be if you get paid by a non-Jew to work with him on yain nesach, it's asrana. Yain nesach asrana. You can't get a salary, can't get paid by a goy from working, making yain nesach. It's a problem because when you make yain nesach, it's automatically asrana. You can't have kind of benefit, right? So Gemara says, so that's like Ravuna. In other words, it already has the halacha of yain nesach even over here. That's why you can't join a goy at this stage. Okay, so that's number one. The ein boitzrin in Yisrael she'oisa peirosav betoma, and you can't harvest with a Jew that is planning to take those grapes and being matamet, right? You can't even press with him because that's misiyela de over avera. You were helping a Jew do an avera. A Jew is not allowed to be matamah chulin in Eretz Yisrael. And if this Jew is not makbid, you can't partner with him. Yeah, you can't be misiyela de over avera. But you could harvest with a non-Jew. Why? Because mutter ligram, this end, the Mishnah Choyna holds that you could be goyrim tuma lechulin shebe'eretz Yisrael. That you could do. One second. In other words, by a goy, there's no isser to be goyim tuma lepeirus chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. So either way, just to be clear, in the bottom line over here, so far what we learned, Rav Huna managed to answer the Mishnah that seemingly said not like him by saying that's Mishnah Rishoina. That was in the beginning. But Mishnah Achroina says that it becomes yain nesach even here. As soon as you have enough liquid where it starts flowing down the pipe into the bar, so this liquid already becomes yain nesach, and it actually asers the entire vat, the entire press.
As long as it's just a few drops, that's one thing. But once it begins to collect,
and it starts flowing down, then that's
or
that
has the possibility of flowing.
Even has the possibility, right? Okay, says the Gemara. 2 dots, nun vav amid aleph. Baruch Hashem, we're on today's daf. Today's daf is daf nun vav. Okay, we made it. Now, don't think just because I looked at the dafim right now. Don't think just because they're short dafim, right? It's a little deceiving because these dafim are quite hard. Yeah. So somehow, whoever set up the shas, they knew agaritas. They gave you long dafim. Why? Because you just run through it. Yeah, brachas as the most
for the tosfos.
Right. and right, just look at this, so you see that it's not so simple. Okay, so let's see by the 2 dots. Let's see if we can get through it in Mirza Hashem. The halacha is, the Mishnah says that it only becomes yain nesach until it gets in here. That's the Mishnah Rishoina, right? asks the Gemara, Vatanya Yayin Mishiyakape. Is that how it's? Anybody have? How do they enunciate this word? How do they write out this word? Mishiyakape, right? Mishiyik, but that's what I thought. But in art school, it's Mishiyakape.
Okay.
Okay, however you pronounce it. What does Mishiyakape mean? Mishiyakape means that when the wine ferments, the sediments rise. I guess that it floats up. It floats upward, and it makes a little like a layer,
A
layer
kind of thing. Yeah, right.
Foam.
of
It's a foam.
more than foam, also foam, but also sediments.
Sediments,
you have
right,
sediments, you have pieces
Right.
that all rise upward.
Right.
I was actually looking up the sign.
It's a thick
I was like,
foam.
is that really like I've never? Usually, it gravity pulls it down to the bottom. Why does it rise? Why does it float upward? And the answer is because it only happens during the fermentation process while it's fermenting. There are little bubbles that and the bubbles, I guess,
Raise it up.
raise it upward. The bubbles get trapped actually in the sediments,
Right.
which make it lighter than the liquid,
What gas is
and that's
produced?
how it
What
rises.
gas is produced?
CO2 or
Oh, so that's right.
okay, whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't
Right.
know. Yeah. So anyway, so point is that you have this layer.
Who cares what the guy does?
Yeah. So you have this layer of sediments that rise up, and the Mishnah in Meiser says, from when does wine become a chuyev in Meiser? Right? At what stage does wine become a chuyev in Meiser? So the Mishnah says mishiyakape, from when it floats upward. Okay, the chatzanim float upward. That's when it becomes a chuyev in Meiser. So what do you see from here? That it gets the status of wine,
but
not when it's yored labar. Not when it's yored labar. The Mishnah says it becomes wine with regard to yain nesach once it drips into the bar. Over here, the Mishnah in Meiser says with regard to Meiser, it only gets the status of wine once the sediments rise and
When
float
it
upwards.
begins to ferment. In other words, the sediment. The
Not
sediment.
begins. Not begins. It says when all the.
Yeah, I know that's what I'm
Chatzanim,
saying.
they float upward. Yeah.
The fermentation.
Meaning it's fermented all day, not the beginning.
No, the fermentation process
No.
causes this gas. No,
Omar Rava loikasha horeb akiva horabanan.
we need chemistry. miss.
Rava says it's not a kasha. It's not a contradiction between our Mishnah and the Mishnah or the Brisa in Maisris. I guess to Mishnah. You have to change Vatanya to Mishnah. Not a machloikas. It's not a stira. Horeb Yakiva horabanan. It's actually a machloikas between Rabbi Akiva and the Rabbanan. The Tanya.
Is the end result. Fermented is the end result. It's already become alcohol. It's not the beginning.
The Tanya Yayin Mishiyered Labar. Yayin. When is the Gemar Malacha? When is it have halacha of Yayin? For Meiser, that's Mishiyered Labar. Once it drips into the bar. Rabbi Kiva Oimer Mishiyakape. No, it's at a later stage. Means Taisus is bothered, by the way, with the word Mishiyakape. Mishiyakape sounds like it's an earlier stage. No, it's not
When it
Mishiyered
does.
Labar. It's Mishiyakape. If it's a later stage, the Rabbi Kiva should have said Ad Shiyakape. It's a later stage.
By the way, the
Taisus
Rambam-
bothered by this, but either way, it is a later
By the way,
stage.
the Rambam holds by that. The Rambam says that if a wine is not wine till it's 100% fermented. Because Mitzvah Navim, it's not wine according to the
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right. If it's 100% fermented, the fermentation process is over. Then it's not. There's no. Then gravity pulls it back down. It's only during the fermentation process where you have these little bubbles that get trapped that floats it upward.
You know how this happens, right? You know how this happens.
Separate share for Allah Lamais.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Your boiler. More says Ashayla. Kipoy the bar or kipoy the chavias. When Rabbi Akiva says that it only gets the status of wine and becomes mechuyev and meiser once the sediments rise up, is that when the yain is still in the bar, or once you pull the yain out of the bar, put it into barrels, and then it continues the fermentation process, and in the barrel you have the sediments rise to the top. That's even a later stage. Gemara says Tashema, the Tanan yain mishiyakape, which means afapi shakipa koilet menagasu al yoina menatziner v'shoisa shma mina kipa the bar kaminan. From the fact that when it says mishiyakapa, it says that even though in the bar the sediments rose to the top, you could still drink from the gas and the tzinor without giving meiser must be that mishiyakapa means the bar, because once you put in the chavis, what does it have to do with any of the hair? So once, if you're going to differentiate between the gas and something else, it makes sense you're differentiating between the gas and the bar, which are connected. But if kippah means chavius, then this has nothing to do with anything. So it must be that kippah of Rabbi Akiva means kippah the bar, that it's when it's in the bar and it starts rising, the sediments start rising, then it becomes mechuyev meiser. Shema mino, that's the shita of Rabbi Akiva.
הרשש, הוא מקשה מהגמרא אותי על רש"י בא ומציע, הוא אומר שהוא מוכח שפירושו של מה זה משיקיפה, מה זה שקיפה? אתה יודע, שהוא מסיר את החרצנים והזגים, זה לא יצא לבד. הקצף הזה זה סמיך, אני יודע מה זה, עשיתי יין.
We have to remove it?
הקצף is very סמיך, הוא סמיך.
Yeah, it's thick.
It's thick. He says here, Rashash, you have to take it out. So this קצף, הוא סמיך, ובפנים יש חרצנים,
That's how he answers the Lashon Mishiyakapa. That's Mishiyakapa, because it means you have to say it. Beautiful. Very beautiful. Excellent.
אז מה זה גמר? שאתה ניקית את הכל. אז זה
Yeah.
עכשיו זה יין.
Beautiful.
When you
Beautiful.
were gone, you could have had him do the shiur.
Absolutely. He's taken over. Yeah. Vatani Rav Zvid b'dvei Rabbi Shia. Rav Zvid learned this brayso in the Mishnah Rabbi Shia, and he says like this: Yayin
אני רק מחדד את הדברים.
mishiyered la be'emet ata mechaded. Baruch Hashem. Yayin mishiyered labar v'yekapeh. Yayin, the gemar malach of wine for meiser is mishiyered labar v'yekapeh. B'kiva Omer. B'kiva says, no, mishiyishle. B'chavius, from when you pull the wine from the bar into the chavius. So the Gemara asks, it seems to be a different machloikas between the Chacham and Rabbi Akiva from when it gets the status of wine. Earlier, the Mishnah and Meister says the machloikas is whether it gets the status of wine from when it goes into the bar or later when it becomes, when there's Mashiach Kappa. And over here, in the Brisa Rav Zvit taught, in the Besmedrash Rabbi Shia, yeah, it sounds like the different machlekas, different stages. Chachamim say Mishier the Bar V'Yekapeh, and Rekiva says even a later stage from when you pull it into a chavius. Of course, it's Tirtzanam Lach Kamai Sahachi. No, so you have to say that the first brisa, the Mishnah is also agreeing with the brisa of Rabbi Shia, and you have to change it. Yaim Mishier the Bar V'Yekapeh. Chachamim say the Gemar Malacha is once it reaches into the bar and V'Yekapeh. B'kiva Omer, Meshiyishla b'chavius. B'kiva says, from when you pull it out of the bar and you put it into the chavius. Ve'elu masnisan dektani, eina oise yain nesech, at sheyered labar. Wow, now that we have a machloikis, the Chachamim and Rabbi Akiva, from when does wine get the status of wine with regard to meiser? From when is it called Gemar Malacha? You completed the process of winemaking, and now you're mechuyev to give meiser from the wine. At what stage in the process do we say now it gets the status of wine? According to the Chachamim, we just established, once it reaches the bar, and the yekapeh, and the way you explained it is the sediments rise and you remove it, or Rabbi Akiva says, no, even later, you have to take it out of the bar and put it into barrels, and only then does it get the status of wine, and that's when you mechuyev meiser. Ask after it winds down. Very good, excellent. So asks the Gemara, but what are you going to do with the Mishnah? Why? Because the Mishnah has a whole different stage. What did the Mishnah say? Ze'akol, Mashiach Labar. It gets the halachas of Yayin Nesech, Mashiach Labar, which means what? It gets the status of wine. Stam Mashiach Labar. Not via Kapen, not Mashiach Lechavias. So what, do you have a third shita now? Says the Gemara, Lema Telosa Tanoi. So it's a three-way machlikas Tanoim. Our Mishnah and the Chachamim and Meisters and Rabbi Akiva. From what point do we say wine gets the status of wine? So the Gemara doesn't like that. The Gemara doesn't want to, splinter off this argument into three ways. Loi says the Gemara nisht. Really, it's a machlekes, a two-way machlekes. Why in our Mishnah by Yayin Nesech do we say it gets the status of wine earlier? I'll tell you why. Shani Yayin Nesech dachmi Rabbi Rabbanan. In that Mishnah, we're talking about the regard to Maser. Maasers, yeah. Chachamim say Mishyer lebar v'yekapeh. Rekiva says Mishish lechavius. But you want to know Yayin Nesech? That by Meiser. Yayin Nesech is Avodah Zarah, Chomur.
עוד לפני.
כן, עוד לפני אפילו. Shani Yayin Nesech dachmi Rabbi Rabbanan.
בזה המשנה החמירה בזה.
בשביל זה המשנה החמירה בזה.
אתה יודע, ראיתי גם רמב"ם שאומר למה יין מבושל זה כבר לא יין? שאין לו כוח להיות יין.
Doesn't have anymore. You kill the koyach to continue
כי בגד,
fermenting.
בבור,
Yes.
המים, היין, המיץ, יש לו כוח שהוא יהיה יום אחד
Correct.
יין.
Correct. Okay, very nice. So Shani Yain Nesach Dachmira Berabbanan.
הבנת סוכות?
Ula Rava asks the Gemara, according to Rava, Dile Shani Le, Rava Lamaisa doesn't differentiate. Why not? Because
שבילי השמיים.
because Rava tells to the Machlokes Rekiva the Rabbanan to our Mishnah, right? He's the one that tells it too. He's the one that compares it. So obviously he doesn't hold. There's a Chilin Yain Nesach and Meisers. Says the Gemara, no, Mukam Leket Lastano. You're right. According to Rava, it's actually a three-way Machlokes. So if I asked you at the end of today's daf, yeah, the end of today's daf, at what point does grape juice, whatever, the liquid that comes out of grapes, get the status of wine? According to Rava, it's a three-way machlokes.
Which are?
Our Mishnah teaches that it gets the status of wine as soon as it's yerid labar.
Right.
Right? Not before. When it's yerid labar, it gets status of wine, and it's subject to the halachas of yain nesach. Right?
When it's
Hashar
from-
mutter.
in the board.
The rest is mutter.
Yeah.
Right. The rest is mutter. Okay. That's Mishnah Rishayna. But okay, fine. Either way. The Chachamim hold, no, it's not enough Mashiach Labar. You need an extra step. It's Mashiach Kapeh. You need the fermentation process to begin, and the sediments to rise, the pulp to rise, the skin to rise. And according to Reb Shol, the way the Rashash learns is also to remove that. But Akaponim, that's the stage. At that point, it gets the status of wine. Rabbi Akiva is Mekel. He says, no, even at that point, you could still drink, no problem. You don't have to give Meiser. Yeah?
זה לא נקרא גמר מלאכה.
It's not called Gemar Melacha.
זה העניין.
It's not called Gemar Melacha. And until you put it into barrels.
הקורדו רבי עקיבא,
Mishayishla
גמר
b'chavias.
מלאכה שיצא בחבית, זהו.
No. So we have a three-way machloikas tanoim. At what stage does the liquid of the grapes become wine and lahalocha, yain nesech, meiser, and all that? Okay.
So it's
Now-
not so simple that grape juice is considered wine.
Ooh, with regard to meiser and right, it's not so simple that I think the Rambam paskins you cannot make kiddush on, right?
if it's
On
not-
grape
it's
juice,
not-
what's on
it's
of
not yain,
Yeah.
Yain ramish.
So grape juice may taste good, but it's not
Right.
wine, is what you're saying. Yeah.
קורדו רמב"ם זה ברכה לבטלה.
They do, but it
Right.
has to
Wow.
only once the process is completed. That's when you give meiser. The question is, at what point do we say the process?
יין שעולה על המזבח. זה מה
Yeah.
שהרמב"ם
Right.
פסקין,
Yeah.
יין שעולה על המזבח זה רק יין
Has to have-
שראוי
right.
לקידוש.
Right.
The moment it's
Right.
a grape, you have to get my on it, so why does it matter
איך
once
אני
it
יודע?
becomes wine, whether
ידועים לשבילי רמב"ם כשבילי נהרדעה.
You make wine, you
You have to give meiser. You have to give meiser on fruits also.
What about Shulchan Aruch?
Yeah, but you only give meiser
The other half.
at the stage of Gemar Malach, it's called, when the process is complete. Whatever you're turning that product into, you can call it a complete product and no further malach is required. Okay? So even if it's grape juice, right? People would say it has to be already in barrels for it to be considered Gemar Malach and to be Mechuyev and Meiser.
So, but what's
It
the
has to be
practical
already in the
difference?
delivery bag. Yeah, now it's
What's the practical difference between the three opinions and how much spice you're going to be giving? Aren't you giving the same amount either way? So why is there?
No,
it's
so-
when you
so
when you
Rashi
can-
says-
when can you take it before the meiser, to enjoy it before the meiser.
yeah, you're allowed to drink.
off of it.
Right, you're allowed to snack. Very good. Good word.
He's good at snacking. In the
Excellent.
pantry, he's a very
Once it
good-
becomes Mechuyev and Meiser, no snacking. You can't just grab a drink.
Until you separate.
Until you
listen,
separate,
there's
yeah.
no wine tasting. You know?
Okay, Zuk the Gemara weiter.
barrel tasting.
It's exciting. We're catching up the last 9 minutes. Oh, Masha Babur Osir, Vashar Mutter. The
Last
Mishnah
time I
said,
last time I said question.
Face off.
You have questions? Yeah, let's go.
okay,
Last 5 minutes.
okay. So now, by the way, so now Rav Huna wants to limit this line of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that only what's in the bar is Osir, because that already becomes Yayin, and it's subject to the laws of Yayin Nesach. Whatever is here is Mutter, right? Whatever is here is Mutter. Omer Rav Huna, so Rav Huna comes along and says, not so fast. Don't think that whatever is here is Mutter, and only what's here is Osir. It's not always the case. Lo shanu elo shelo hichzer gagusni lagas. It's only if the sifter, right, the filter, whatever you had here, were like in middle of the, it's usually middle of the tziner, didn't touch this part of the
Liquid.
the liquid, the gas, whatever's in the gas. But if aval hichzer gagusni legas, but if for some reason this slipped into here, then this assers the entire.
The strainer or the pulp?
The strainer. The strainer assers the entire, because the strainer has drops. Has drops of the yayin and the bar.
How's it going the opposite way? Gravity's pulling. Yeah.
Question.
Let's say somebody moved the tziner and it went like whatever. It just means if something happened and the gargusni touched the juice or the liquid in the gas, now it would aser the entire thing. Why? Because the gargusni, the sifter, the what you call it, the
Strainer.
the strainer,
Right.
the strainer, yeah, the what? The wicker basket.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the wicker basket has drops of the yayin from the bar. We'll see how. Reb Shol is shaking his head, but we'll see how in a moment. And once it has drops from here,
Condensation.
it does not become bottle. If any of the drops come in here, it's not bottle. Why isn't it bottle? Tosfos asks, why isn't it bottle? The answer is min b'minoi afilu be'elef le'bottle.
Right.
It's min b'minoi. It's drops of wine with wine. So if you have part of this wine on the wicker basket that touches the gas, then it asers the entire gas. This is Rav Huna's chiddush. Rav Huna. By the way, even though Rav Huna earlier argued on the Mishnah altogether, he says there's a Mishnah Achroina that asers everything, right? So anyways, it's not even relevant according to Rav Huna, but he's going in the Mishnah Rishonim. In our Mishnah, the version that we have here, you should know, even our Mishnah is limited by the fact that it's only if the Gargusni didn't touch this part. It's the Rabbi, Yayin Nesach, whatever Yayin Nesach, the halach of Yayin Nesach is. It's pashtus. Is it Midaraisa D'Rabbanan? That's a question. If it's not, it's a mashu. It's oyster b'mashu.
What's the question?
Is it Midaraisa D'Rabbanan? He wants to
Is
know.
what? Yeah.
If the right, yeah, if the wicker basket falls back into the gas and it has drops from here, it asks everything. Okay, so I'm Rabbanan. Lo shanu ela shelo hichzik gargus legas. Ava hichzik gargus legas aser. So the Gemara asks your question. Gargus negufa b'mayka mitzvah. How did the gargusni become aser? It never touched. It's in the middle of the tzina, right? How did that become aser? You asked this?
Condensation.
No, I said that.
Condensation?
That's what I
He
think.
said condensation.
Oh, very interesting.
I said I don't see a way that it's going to touch.
The Gemara says a very interesting condensation. You could be. You don't have to come out to that. The Gemara says benitzaik. It's kiluach. There's a flow, right? We're talking where there's a flow of wine, of juice coming through the tzino, touching the sifter, touching the wicker basket, and then I guess it's touching. It's not on top, okay? So I'm assuming it's touching the actual or stream, yeah. Or it's a stream that connects, that connects the yain and the bar.
Like a mikvah.
It's like a mikvah, yeah.
Right, exactly.
So that's called a chibur. That's connecting it, and therefore.
It said when it's floating down. It said when it's streaming.
Yeah. Oh, so the problem is, if that's really the reason, why don't need to go gusni to touch here?
Yeah, just already back.
It's already a chibur, right?
Right.
Whoa.
What's the question? Stop the shit.
עירוי זה בלי פייק. עירוי זה מהאוויר, זה עירוי. זה עירוי. אוקיי? זה לא עירוי, זה צינור. זה נקרא השקה.
You can't argue with the doctor.
That's Tosfos Kasha. Tosfos Kasha is, who asked this? Tosfos Kasha is, once you establish, you're telling me that there's a chibur, it's connected, this is connected with this because of the flow of wine that connects them, so why do you need to go gusni to touch? Why did the gagusni, the droplet gusni, to touch this part? The Ravuna says, if it touches this part, then it becomes aser. But I mean, it's aser because it's all mechuber, it's all connected, right? And this is aser, so if it's connected to this, so it should become aser even if the gagusni doesn't touch it. That's Tosfos' kasha. What is the answer? Weiß ich nicht.
זה נגד המשנה, דרך אגב.
Tosfos' answer is b'shem Rashi.
זה against the משנה. כי המשנה אומרת, רק מה שבגד.
It's a type of sifter, he says, that stops, I guess, and then it sifts through, and then it continues. Something
So it
like
must-
that.
in other
It
words,
has
the-
like a chamber,
No, it must be very, very tiny holes.
tiny holes.
Right.
Oh, that's what it is. It's tiny holes. That's what it is. Yeah.
What's the difference?
And
That's what a sifter is. As opposed to...
You know, it depends on how thick. But you're right. A sifter means anything, but it depends on the size of the hole.
Big holes are not sifters.
Why not? Why are they
Because
not?
it doesn't stop anything from
It does. It stops larger objects.
Not a grape.
no.
Yeah.
Stops the skin and the seeds and all that stuff. Maybe.
Okay, I'm not sure, but either way,
Not wrong. I confused.
the way the sifter is in there, the way the wicker basket is situated inside the tzinoy,
Right.
is somehow interrupting the flow from the gas to the mesanenes, to the wicker basket.
Therefore,
and
it's doing its job.
Therefore, right, it's doing its job. And it's only considered connected to the mesanenes, not to the gas. Okay, so that's only if this piece touches this, that's when it's awesome.
Very interesting.
Okay, says the Gemara.
Last 2 minutes.
I shma mino nitzoik.
Oh, Toso says, he answers.
Yeah, what does he say?
We're not looking at its bottom, but along its sides.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly how that answers, but what does it mean?
I'm just quoting.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about
Right,
the
right.
liquid that's within the pipe, that's along the.
I'll give you my article after this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Shma mina nitzuk chibur asks the Gemara. You know, it's a huge sugya. Do we say that nitzuk is a chibur or not? Do we say that when there's a flow, is that called a chibur? Is that mechaber or not? Here it sounds like,
That it
right,
is.
that it is. Asks the Gemara. Shma mina. Let's prove from here. Got to go with the flow. I love that. Nitzuk chibur. Says the Gemara. No, it's not a raya. Kedatoni Rabbi Chia. Like Rabbi Chia learns in the Brisa. We're talking about shepchasatu tzlechisai. Hachanami shepchasatu bayra. It could be it has nothing to do with nitzuk. The reason why that you're asking, why did the masanenas become, right? Well, how did the masanenas get the droplets of the bar onto the filter? You know how? Because the bar overflowed, and it overflowed into the tzinoy,
Right.
That was
and
Toso's
it only
problem.
became half full until the masanenas. That's how the masanenas became filled with the drops of the bar, and then if it touches the gas, that's when it becomes aser. Yeah? Yichab? No, you understand? Is it understandable? Okay.
זה יורד, ויש שם עוד פילטר ויורד,
Okay, we'll stop over here.
ניצוק